Will you dare to love? Millennials and Gen Z, I want you to order my new book, Millennial and Gen Z Guide to Marriage, Love in the Age of Lies, Deception, and Mistrust by Natural Ferreira, because this is our time. Available today on Amazon, iTunes, and Audible.
And moving on, to wrap up, I wanted to talk about how I feel like Biden and Harris are kicking butt. I wanted to highlight a few things, and I'm only going to be able to kind of highlight them quickly because we've gone a little while here. So I'll probably have to come back and talk to you in a little bit more in depth at a later date. But there's been a few things over the last couple of months that really have been striking me as brave, been striking me as resilient in the face of the different financial struggles, that not financial but economic challenges of this administration. Obviously Donald Trump, the challenge in and of itself that Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans are, and the different wars that, are kind of out of Biden's control. I know that he has a certain amount of control, but he didn't start the war in Ukraine. He didn't start the war in Israel. It's like he didn't start the war in Benin or Niger or Haiti, however you want to look at it. So there's a few things. There was a tour in the White House with Architectural Digest. There was a speech where he calls Donald Trump a loser. And I know that just sounds like that's kind of crass or whatever, but I want to get into why I thought that was really noteworthy. He really, really went in on that speech. And he also made it about his constituents. He had these workers up there with him. No, that wasn't that speech. I'm sorry. But every speech, he really, really puts out there the everyday working man. You even see when he's going out to meet and greet with different people, he's really, really showing that he's there for his constituents, especially the people who work for him within Congress, within city councils, within local government, with the General Assembly, within Congress. He's really, really showing that, and people don't give him credit for that. He's had a lot of experience with that. And when we're looking at him and Donald Trump, we're looking at apples and oranges. It's just the epitome of apples and oranges. The other thing was his State of the Union address. This was amazing, even despite MAGA Mike Johnson throwing weird looks behind him. He just looked like, that meme of Kevin Hart, You know that face that I'm talking about, the Kevin Hart face, while Kamala Harris is like getting up, clapping. Marjorie Taylor Greene is in the audience dressed in all this MAGA attire, looking crazy. But, just how embraced he was there. And even how, despite the sort of like begrudging sort of hesitation from Republicans, and even the sort of who we assume are the far right Republicans on the Supreme Court. We don't assume it. We know who they are. Even they seemed inclined to be drawn to Biden because he is a good egg. He's a good egg. He has a good soul. Maybe he's not perfect, but he's not a dictator, right? He's not evil. He's not a rampant R word. You know what I'm talking about? He's not a misogynist. He's not a criminal. And that right there was, it was noteworthy. The last thing was Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris, she talked about Roe v. Wade, right? She talked about Donald Trump talking about Roe v. Wade and tooting that he ended abortion, something that our European allies are just, it's a given. For most of them, it's a given. It's like, how dare I feel like I can just go ahead and tell somebody what to do about their life? This is 2024. This is not prehistoric times. This is not arcane times. this is not the Salem witch trials. You have no business trying to tell people how they should, look after their family, how they should expand or not expand their family, how they should not take care of their bodies, how they should look at their health care. No business. And Kamala Harris said, how dare he? So that's what I want to look at. There was Architectural Digest. Biden brought us into the White House, millions of viewers. And I thought that was noteworthy. I also like how Biden is quite active on Twitter at good times. I know he's probably working with some sort of PR manager or something on his Twitter, but I think that he is driving the wheel on that, and he is right on it. Donald Trump and his criminal stuff, he just drops these kind of cheeky remarks. So let's look at this. First of all, the Architectural Digest, I really liked the down-to-earth element of him bringing us into the White House. I don't know that I've seen anything quite like it, but it could just be that I haven't seen anything like this in my lifetime. I do know that there probably have been presidents who have done this before. I've definitely seen the White House in other coverage and things like that. And I want to say that I remember Obama. I remember seeing maybe something similar during the Obama administration, but don't hold me to that. But it definitely wasn't this in-depth. And he goes through art pieces, he goes through photos, he goes through some of his own little kind of knickknacks and things. He talks a little bit about the design and the history of the building, the history of some of the artifacts within the building. And it really, it puts into place how much respect he has for this position. And that's something that you guys really need to think and keep in mind. Vote blue down the line in 2024. He actually really values this position. He looks at the high importance of this position and how he's a spokesperson, a representative for every American person, not just rich white ones or, even rural white ones or just white ones, but all Americans. And he takes it really, really seriously. But I wanted to quote, I can't remember the guy's name. He's featured on MSNBC a lot. He's like kind of a short black man, and he's got like long, big, white, like kind of gray white hair. Kind of like Albert Einstein. It's just like popped up in a like big kind of almost, I have no idea. Anyway, I wish I could remember his name. I'm so sorry that I can't. But he said something interesting. I think he was on the Roland Martin show, and he was like, Republicans are, he said, Democrats are playing chess. Democrats are playing chess. But it doesn't make, he said something like, it doesn't matter if Democrats are playing chess if Republicans are just taking that chessboard and beating you over the head with it. And I was like, that's it right there. It's an understatement to say that Republicans and Democrats are apples and oranges, Like, Democrats are playing a safe game. They're playing the game as it should be played. It's traditional politics, Being considerate of others, the way that they say things, being politically correct, trying to follow policy, trying to follow tradition, trying to say things with a candor of respect, trying to, get with their constituents and come up with compromises. While Republicans are being authoritarian, dictatorial, they're conspiracy theorists, they are grievance politics, they are cancel culture, they are bigoted, racist, sexist, voter suppression. So it's like they're coming at every angle, and you can tell that they know that they're going to lose, because why would it be so bogged down and negative and hate-filled if they didn't, And I hope that there are people out there who realize that this is a cult. It's time for you to get out. Vote blue down the line. It's a cult. You come back to us. We want you to come back and make it right with your family. And you can vote Republican in the future, but take the time to weed out the bad eggs, the dictators, the authoritarians, the white supremacists, the conspiracy theorists, and repair your party, and then you can come back. So it says, let's be clear about the 2020 election. Trump exhausted every legal avenue available to him to overturn the election. Every one. But the legal path just took Trump back to the truth that I'd won the election and he was a loser. It's powerful. He had one act left, one desperate act available to him. The violence of January the 6th. And oh yes, it was violent. Since that day, more than 1,200 people have been charged with assault on the Capitol. Nearly 900 of them have been convicted or pled guilty. Collectively to date, they have been sentenced to more than 840 years of prison. What's Trump done? Instead of calling them criminals, he's called these insurrectionists patriots. They're patriots. I think the choice is clear, guys. You've got an authoritarian, horrid man whose face is melting off because this is the biggest example I think we've ever seen, the most public example we've ever seen of what they call narcissistic collapse. Ever. Ever. It's literally Scooby-Doo episodes of them finally taking the friggin' bed sheet off of the dude faking to be a ghost. It's horrid. And he has no business being in the White House. And I feel like deep down, you guys out there who are still beating the MAGA drum know that. You know better than this. So here is Vogue. It's the 5 key moments from President Biden's 2024 State of the Union address. I get if you don't think that Biden and Harris are perfect. No president is perfect. But like Biden said, don't compare me to the almighty. Compare me to the alternative. President Joe Biden presented Congress with his 4th State of the Union address on Thursday night, one that was clearly crafted to separate him as firmly as possible from his presumptive opponent in his year's election, former President Donald Trump. So here are the 5 things. Trump was derided, of course. Abortion was centered, finally. The Biden administration's call for a temporary ceasefire was renewed. Biden took a hard stance on Ukraine, and voting rights were emphasized. Now, read deeper into the lines of this. So, the 5 key moments. Trump was derided, of course. Everybody knows life has been hard in the Western world. Donald Trump has been a thorn in the side of the Western world, the whole world, for about 10 years now. We're all exhausted. Okay? And he's highlighting that. Abortion was centered. Those of you out there, a lot of liberal white women actually, who I'm seeing protesting a lot around abortion. I know who you are. I mean, you are maybe a mom who's already got 3 or 4 kids or 5 or 6 kids, and it's not time for more kids. You are a working professional and you want to focus on your career. You are an older mom and you don't think that you have the capacity to have any more children. You are simply a person who wants to see a right that has been here for so long. I mean, separation between church and state was created for a reason. And you want to see this right to be able to be passed down to your children and their children. You are someone who has health issues. It can be dangerous for you to get pregnant. You are someone who is a college student. Maybe you don't have much experience in the world because you're quite young and you don't want to have a child yet. Maybe you're not even a college student. Maybe you are a teenager, who has gotten pregnant and you want to do more. You want to experience more before you have a family. And you shouldn't have to be making excuses for that. So the fact that that's highlighted in there is really big. The fact that Ukraine is highlighted in there is really big because Putin put out this friggin' press release that, not a press release, but he put out the statement that he would support Biden, over Trump if he could, because he thinks that Biden is a stronger leader. That just shows the ickiness of that nature. I mean, here Donald Trump is always up Putin's booty, like they're two dictatorial Hitler wannabes just in the playpen together, having a little play date. And his best friend has basically said, your opponent would be better than you. And of course, it's all a political move, because Putin knows he's done so much wrong. He's done so much wrong. And Biden is the type of leader who is not going to excuse totalitarianism. He's not going to excuse this authoritative, just violence, political violence, hundreds of thousands of people dying under this man, and Ukraine, we keep forgetting about it because we're so distracted by this crap that Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans are doing. And Biden basically reminds us, we cannot forget about this. We can't forget about this. The ceasefire in Gaza. Biden knows. He knows that he's been losing support amongst Arabic-speaking Americans, amongst Muslim Americans, amongst Palestinians, and amongst young people. And he knows that, but it's not just about that. It comes back to treaties and alliances that are decades long, that are goes back to histories that are centuries long. And he knows that he's walking a tightrope, because there is an allyship between America and Israel. And if you just look at this in black and white, rose-tinted glasses, thinking, well, he's the president, he should just do it. That's quite naive to think of. He's doing what his predecessors, what the U.S. Constitution, and what our commitment to our allies, to our commitments as far as fiscal commitments, have defined around the world. Sometimes you don't always get to do what you want to do. It's the same thing of Biden is surrounded by advisors, because yes, he's the president. He has quite a lot of power, but at the same time, this is a big machine comprised of the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branch. Biden was a senator for a very long time. He understands foreign policy, and he's walking a tightrope. But at the same time, he knows Netanyahu is an idiot. He's an idiot, and he's taking so many lives mercilessly. And I think he's been caught between a rock and a hard place. But him talking about that ceasefire is important. Ukraine and Israel, they're two of the most important things that need to be funded by America right now. Our European allies have already gave so much money. America has a lot of money. I mean, if you're looking at 2 billion, 3 billion, and you're thinking it's a whole lot of money, America has a lot of money. And who gives them that money? Is us. We pay our taxes. We put in a lot of work. And you know what? When we have good relationships around the world, diplomacy, it comes back to us because we're not being bombed every 2 seconds. So I hate to put it that way, but yeah, it puts Netanyahu and Hamas, they have no right to be going back and forth with each other like that. I think the U.S. doesn't want to end up in another Afghanistan, Iraq type situation. And that's why it's kind of been, let us give you arms, but let us stay hands off. But I think during the State of the Union, Biden mentioning this and making it clear to Congress, you need to approve Israel and Ukraine aid was crucial. It's crucial. But at the same time, him also saying there needs to be a ceasefire. That's saying you need to approve this aid so that innocent people can stop dying. But at the same time, I will work to make sure that less innocent Israelis and Gazans, Israelis and Palestinians stop dying in Gaza. And lastly, the voting rights issue. The voting rights issue is kind of, it really hits home for me because I'm a person of color. I come from a very red state. I was born in Alabama. I know I live in France, but I'm still American. I was born in Alabama and I grew up in Georgia. And these, I mean, Georgia turned purple recently, but historically have been very red states. And historically, states like that really want to suppress Black votes. They don't want Black people voting. They don't want Black people voting because they know they will gear towards Democratic. And the Democratic Party is generally more progressive, more liberal, more centrist. And these billionaires, the gun lobbyists, the fast food lobbyists, the anti-abortion people, they don't want you getting those, advocating for those laws that make us a little bit closer, that close that wage gap more. They want to keep the rich rich and the poor poor, as many would say it. And for him to speak on voting rights, the very clear voting suppression that's happening around Black people, around Latino people, around LGBTQ people, around veterans, around disabled people, around women, is very, very, very clear. And the fact that Biden mentions it, that tells you who should be on your ticket for 2024. Donald Trump won't even admit that this voter suppression is happening, so that right there should forfeit his stake on the ticket. Kamala Harris, as usual, saying how dare he. She's always been a very, very loud spoken but soft spoken, if you know what I mean, opinionated, eloquent speaking, intelligent, experienced woman. And I think that she would be an amazing president. I think she would be an amazing vice president. If anything ever happened to Biden, she would be an amazing president. And people would hate her for it, but it would be a step forward for the U.S. It's recently like the president of Liberia said. She said, I'm surprised that the U.S. hadn't had a female president yet. If you really look at the way the crowd interacts with her, they really, really feel connected to her. And Obama had that same energy. So, and the abortion thing, the suppression of women votes, the suppression of women's healthcare rights, she's going to keep pushing for that. She'll always be there for that. And that's really, really, really important. Motherhood is so important. It's fulfilling, but it's also something that's very personal, and you should have the rights to address it the way that you want. And so it was really noteworthy her being there. It was noteworthy her talking about these issues that are hitting women. You're seeing so many women protesting about those issues. And it was also just sort of like refreshing to see someone who reminds you of your mom or your sister or your aunt, who could be the president. I mean, who would be better to help organize this mess of the U.S. than a woman? That's what women do. We organize messes. But I loved it. I think that they are killing it. And I know there's going to be people, they're going to be, critics or whatever, but, decide it in the ballot, don't decide it with your fists or anything like that. We can absolutely exist in a fair democracy where you decide with your ballot. So I encourage you all to get out there and vote for your choice. But I encourage you to vote blue all the way down the line in 2024, because voting for blue is voting for democracy. But if you want to stumble into 1941 Hitler's 1941 Germany, then vote Republican, but I think you would regret it. And I think your children and your children's children would regret it. But anyway, we talked about a whole lot today, guys. I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments. If you're new here, please hit the like, subscribe button, hit the bell so you know whenever I post a video. You can also send me a super chat. You can send me a super thanks if you would like to support this channel. It helps pay for all of our gear, all of our setup, our studio setup. It helps us pay for the software, things that we need, and it helps push these videos out into the world. And so we're growing this little community, and I'm so happy you're here. I love you for the unique things that make you you, and I'm so happy that you're here with me. Thank you so much for your support, guys. Truly, sincerely. I may not always get back to the comments as fast as I would like, but sincerely, the love is there. The love is there. So thank you so much for your support.